Hello, dear ones. Good afternoon. I apologize for the delay. My computer decided to stop functioning, so I had to grab my spare laptop. So I'm hoping that this broadcast is good for you. Let me know in the chat box if you can hear me all right. You can hear me if the audio is good. Can you give me a like or chat something, chat that you can hear me, please? Do y'all like my shirt? My Ram Dass shirt? Be here now. Oh, good. I'm glad I can be heard. All right, fantastic, friends. Thank you for being here. So today's Soul Satsang is on the topic of how to make peace with money. And this is something that has been wanting to come through me for a really long time. And it feels quite beautiful that this is coming. And as I was preparing for today, originally what I was doing was I was making lists and notes and an outline, and then I just sort of threw it in the garbage because I realized that what I wanted to do was to truly make this a channeling experience and to speak to each of you who are tuned in live or later watching this on the channel. And so truly the energy that you bring to this moment, to this event of mindfulness together, is impacting what I am saying, what I'm bringing through. So this is not prescripted. This is very much a co-created event. And so I'll just give you a rundown on how the time plans on being. Basically, I'm going to speak for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I will open up for questions for about 15 minutes to half an hour. So we'll be here for anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how many questions that I receive. So that is the plan for today. And before we get started, I am going to invite us to do a grounding meditation to help us to center ourselves and just come into this moment. So whenever you feel called, I invite you to close your eyes. And I invite you to bring your hands together in prayer position in front of your heart. And let's begin by simply feeling the sensation of our two pinky fingers touching. Let's then feel the sensation of our thumbs touching. Let's feel the sensation of our two middle fingers touching. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, feel your palms touching. And then feel the whole entire hand touching the whole entire other hand. Be here now. Be in this moment. Taking a deep breath in and an exhale out through the mouth. Awesome. So, how to make peace with money? So first, I'm guessing that a majority of the people who are going to be watching and listening to this are people who struggle with money because you are sensitive souls who know better. Okay, what do I mean by know better? What I mean is that deep within you, you can sense the discordant vibrations of money. You can sense where money comes from. You can sense all the jumbled, mixed up, often not too wise ways that human beings use money when they get it. And you can perhaps feel into different timelines in the future where money is not going to be utilized in the highest of manners. So there's all this, we'll call it dense energy, confused energy, wrapped up in money. And you're psychically attuned to that discordant, dense, confused energy. And that poses a problem because money is what we need to flourish in this life that we have when we're currently living in houses and have electric companies and grocery stores and all the things that we have, right? So at this time of now, money is a necessity. We cannot argue against that. We can't pretend that it's not a necessity. We can't bury our heads in the sand and wish it was otherwise. Truly, right now in this world, money is a necessity. So in my approach to money that I'll be sharing today, it's a balanced approach between the reality of right now, this timeline, this current moment that we're all sitting in together here and now, infused with some mysticism, some magic. And what I see far too often is a polarization on this topic. So either it is the most beautiful but unrealistic perspective of money that is really focused in the magic and the manifestation and the we can be billionaires if we just have enough affirmations. Or it goes in the other direction of very, 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 very 3D, very, very, very just practical. What you see is what you get. Money isn't energy. Money is just this thing. And let's just consult the accountants about it. Okay. So it's very polarizing. And so what I hope to do is to bring these two worlds together. I would like to share that a lot of my views on money have been influenced by the speaker and writer Charles Eisenstein. So my biggest go-to resource on this topic is a book called Sacred Economics, and I'm constantly rebuying it and giving it out to all my friends and clients because it is just the most mind-blowing, beautiful, inspiring, transformative book that I've ever read on the subject of money. And I've read so many books on the subject of money. So please, if you haven't read that book yet, I really recommend it. And that book does have this nuanced approach, blending the real, the practical, the 3D, the mundane in with the magical, the esoteric, the mystical. It puts them together. So today, all of us, myself included, wish we had more money in our wallets. And we are spiritual beings who understand deep principles about the way the world works. And yet when we think about it, yeah, we wish we had more money in our wallet. We wish we had more money in our bank account. Why? Well, one reason for that is it would relieve some of the worry in our minds. So the first Reiki precept is just for today, do not worry. And that's a precept to help us to have the mental clarity and mental stability to go through our day, focusing on what matters without being pulled in multiple directions by worries of the future, which is essentially negative manifestation. It's the opposite of what we want to be doing. We're literally creating hell in our mind, drawing ourselves to that hell. So when we, in our minds, we think if we had more money in our wallet, in our bank account, then we wouldn't have to be thinking about money all the time. We could just finally put it on the shelf and forget about it and just go on our lives with what really matters, right? Because we all have gifts to share, beautiful gifts. Some of us are artists, some of us are healers, some of us are intuitives, some of us are caretakers of the planet, some of us are mystics, some of us you can't even put in a category because you or I'm not really sure what you do, but you do it. You're beautiful and and you have your gifts. But we have our gifts. And yet we're burdened, right, by this thing called money. Where am I going to get it? I need more. Oh, I don't have enough. What happens? What if this happens? Or what if this? We have these worries, right, that pop into our head. And they make us feel like they're taking our time and energy away from what we really want to be doing. We all have a deep desire to contribute. One of the things, and I'll go back to the point I was making a second, but just as a side note, one of the things that is frustrating to me and saddening to me is some of the dialogue around universal basic income, where some people argue that if everyone in the world was given a stipend, if you will, to live off of, just for the basic survival, food, shelter, etc., that we would all become lazy. We would all just lay on the couch and smoke pot all day. That, my friends, is so not accurate. If we all had our basic needs covered, that would free up a tremendous amount of psychic energy that we could then pour into our gifts. You would get bored sitting on the couch after a few days or a few weeks, and you'd be like, what now, right? And then you would ask your heart, what do I want to do? And then you'd have the freedom to do it because you wouldn't be worried about money. But going back to my point, everyone here on this channel is a spiritual being, and we have these deep philosophies, these deep ethics that we live from, and yet we still wish we had more money in our wallet. And so I do feel it is necessary to learn some basic techniques to manifest money in life, to help you to then be able to focus on other things. So I want to share with you right now my technique of, you could call it, it's a manifestation technique for money. And this technique allows me, I feel, to attract more money into my life. And that is the practice of receiving. So when I work with people, I don't like to use credit cards, first of all, because I don't want them or myself to support banks as much as possible. And so when you use a card, there's usually fees attached to that. And where do those fees go? Nowhere. They just feed the overly already full pockets of billionaires. So I always ask people to pay me cash or to pay me with a personal check. And that feels really energetically good to me. And so when someone hands me, I will say I do sometimes allow people to use PayPal if they want to pay for something, like give me a donation over the internet, which, by the way, if you would like to contribute a donation today, the link is down below in the description box. But yeah, so I do use PayPal occasionally. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I wish there was a better way, but it doesn't seem to work to ask people to send me cash or check in the mail. So with that having been said, most of the time what I receive is cash and checks. And when someone hands me this cash or check, what I look at it is I don't look at the amount. I don't dwell on the amount, because sometimes this is a donation, or sometimes when I meet with someone, I don't ask for a specified amount. I just ask the person to give me what they feel called to give me. Or if there is a specified amount, then they sometimes give me a tip. I don't focus on how much they're giving me. I'm not in that moment in a calculating analytical mindset. What I'm doing is I just know I'm getting something beautiful from someone I love. And so they hand it to me. I make eye contact with them. And I say something along the lines of, thank you for sharing your abundance with me. And for someone who is experiencing this for the first time with me, they're always pleasantly caught off guard, and they kind of shake their heads a little bit and say, "Oh, you're welcome." Because normally money is there is this background noise of negativity, and as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, yes, there is that energy of negativity. So oftentimes when we're doing cash or different transactions, it's almost like, especially for spiritual people, we want to just get it over with as soon as possible. Like, oh, whatever. I know some of my clients, they will actually leave me money on the counter. They won't even want to hand it to me. They'll just be like, oh, your money's over there, whatever. Right. So in this practice, I'm trying to do my part to reclaim, to reframe the energy of money. And it's beautiful. And so I'll look at them, look in their eye and say, thank you for sharing your abundance with me, or thank you for sharing your gift with me. And then I will hold it and just smile and breathe and just have that moment of mindfulness with them. Then after the person departs my presence and I'm left in my own space by myself, I will take that cash or I will take that check. I will hold it to my heart, right up against my heart. Sometimes I'll look at it first. I'll just gaze at it lovingly, and then I'll hold it to my heart. I close my eyes, and then I breathe in. I visualize that I'm drawing this beautiful energy, this love energy that they have offered to me into my whole body. So as spiritual beings, healers, intuitives, awakening ones, again, it's like we perceive money as all evil and all negative, if subconsciously. And so we often it's almost like we don't want it almost. It's like we'll take it because we know we have to, but it's like there's a part of us that doesn't want it. And so what we're training ourselves to do is to accept that money is it has been corrupted by society, but ultimately at the deepest core, it is a part of the universe. It is a part of creation, and it is a part of God, because everything is God. This tea here is God. This computer screen is God, which I'm, by the way, very grateful for that I had a backup computer today. Everything is God. So that money, that cash, that check is God. And another reason why I like doing cash or check is because it's tangible. If you send money through the computer, it's like I can't smell it. I can't hold it. It's a bit less personal. This is not to dissuade anyone from ever doing that form of using money, but just to say it is nice to hold it in your hand. So you hold it, you breathe it in, you visualize that money is just being inhaled into your whole body. You do that for a while, a couple breaths. Then the next step is what I do is I then tune into the energy of gratitude. And I continue to hold the money here against my heart. And then I just say thank you to the universe for this money. So I just start projecting the word thank you out into the cosmos. Thank you. Thank you for this money. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I just keep repeating thank you until it really sinks in. And I feel the universe feeling my thanks. It's a two-way communication. And then I go about my day. I will say, actually, before I go about my day, I do make sure to care for that money in a loving way. So if it's cash, I will make sure that all the bills are facing in the right direction before I put it in my wallet. or in the same direction, and they look neat and tidy. If it's a check, I make sure to put it in a place like an envelope, and I'll put a little Reiki symbol on it, or I make sure to handle the money with a feeling of respect and love. I mean, I remember before I used to do this practice, really, it was like I was blocking the energy of money from my life, even though I didn't realize it at the time. Because, yeah, I sensed all this discord within it, how it's been used by so many people throughout so many hundreds of years. And so, as someone who is striving for enlightenment, why would I want to bring that darkness into my life? But I had to make peace with money because I realized that I wanted to be a self-sufficient sharer with humanity. So I had to figure out a way to have money in my life so that I could live in this world. I don't know if you all have seen the movie Into the Wild. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen that movie. It's one of my favorites. I think I've seen it over maybe 10 times at this point. I know it by heart at this point. It is so fantastic, and it's pretty much a dream of mine to go off into the wilderness. And in the film, which is based on a true story, the character, the Jonathan Supertramp, he comes from a wealthy family, and then after he graduates college, he fulfills his worldly duty for his parents of graduating college, and then he takes all of his money and he donates it to charity, and then he just strikes off without a dollar in his pocket. And then he ends up in Alaska, and all these magical things happen. But for now, the universe is asking me to live in society. And we don't live in a time where I am supported by my society for being who I am, unfortunately. I took a trip to India a couple of years ago, and it was so very enlightening for me because I reconnected with the wandering sadhus, the wandering ascetics, the wandering monks. And these beings, they give up their friends and family and their lives, and they don an orange or a yellow robe, and they wander barefoot across, they wander India. They have nothing. And connecting with those beings, looking into their eyes and handing them money whenever I could, was one of the most beautiful experiences of my entire life, because I had vivid memories of being such a being in other incarnations. And so when I was handing them money, it felt like handing money to myself. And yet, many of you probably watching this now live in a civilized, whatever that means, civilized place where we do not, those people, those sadhus, they do have enough to survive, and they do well. Their lives are quite beautiful. They spend all their time hanging out in temples, chanting, laying in the sun in India. I mean, I don't know how more wonderful life could be than that. So as someone who lives in Ohio and it snows, I need shelter. And then also, our society does not support spiritual seekers in the way that it does in other places in the world. Anyway, I digress. But if you choose to live in society, then making peace with money is a necessity. We need to do it. And I encourage us simultaneously, while we make our peace with money, that we hold space in our minds for a future version of Earth that is more compatible with how we feel in our heart. So we feel what this Earth could be. We feel what humanity could be. We're often hundreds, if not thousands of years ahead of the calendars and clocks. If you're nodding to this or saying yes, give me a thumbs up. I really For myself, I'll speak for myself. I can feel and taste the version of Earth that is coming, but it is thousands of years away. So what do we do when the world around us seems so drastically different from what we can envision? What do we do? One way to make peace with money is to follow what I like to call God's financial plan. Now, if you don't resonate with the word God, that's perfectly fine. You can call it the universe's financial plan, the divine financial plan, whatever works for you. And it's quite simple to live by this plan, really. And there's two parts to it. The first part is ask yourself this question constantly. How much money do I actually need for my awakening process? Let me repeat that. How much money do I actually need for my awakening process? You can ask yourself this question daily if you'd like. The answer may change depending on the way that Spirit is pulling you to share your gifts in the world. But it's a good compass, that question, because you'll often find you need less than what you think you need, than what the mind thinks you need. What do you really need? There's a lot of competitive energy out there, even in fields such as the healing arts, for example. Oh, I have to have a studio that looks so pristine and has all this fancy art on the wall, and I have to have the latest healing gadgets. And do you need all those things really? Maybe you do. Maybe Spirit is telling you to have those things, but maybe not as well. So be true to what Spirit is saying for you. So that's the first part of God's financial plan. The second part is being open and receptive to how God is going to flow money into your life. Now, this is a challenging thing. So, but I know you all can grasp this, and I know you're ready for this. One of the weaknesses with people who tend to study the law of attraction a lot, well, it's not a weakness in the people that study it, but it's a weakness in the teachings, is how it's typically presented in more mainstream circles. There is this tendency to want to use spirituality as a way to get more things. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. If I just say all these affirmations, then I can manifest a new car, and I can manifest a new house, and I can manifest new clothes and a new phone and la la la. Okay, that's fun for a little while. And if that's where you're at, I totally honor you, and just keep having fun. If it's working for you, keep doing it. And there's a point that will come at some point in the future, maybe not even this lifetime, but I'm just planting a seed, where that game will get very boring, very old. What will be more interesting is asking, how is God wanting to use me? How is the universe wanting to use my life, my breath, my thoughts, words, and deeds in service of the awakening and peace of all beings? And in that surrender process, we surrender also how much money we need for that. And so the second part is an offshoot of the first question. How much money do I actually need for my awakening process? And the second part is just opening to remembrance that God, that the universe, that the divine will give you as much as you truly need to do what's required of you for your own awakening and for helping others. Now, this process may not be super fun, unfortunately. There is an element of trial and testing and strength and endurance, initiation. There's initiation here. So perhaps what is best for you on your journey is to go through life not having a great deal of money. Maybe. While for another, what's part of their path is to have very wealthy donors, and then they channel that money into an ashram or a church or a soup kitchen or a healing center. They need that big stream of income to come in, and then to then spread the love out to those of our brothers and sisters who are caught in deep suffering, deep poverty, deep emotional or physical illness. So we share. So again, no two people are alike. So I hope that as you contemplate this, this brings you more peace inside of yourself with money, because there is no one size fits all answer that I can tell you. It's really a matter of digging inside of yourself on a day-to-day basis and saying, what is real for me now? And again, it changes. So being okay with that change. What is true for me a year ago is often not true for me this year. At different stages and points in my journey, I needed different things. At one point in my journey, I needed someone, my friend, to take care of me because I was incapable of working. I was too sick. What I needed is that love to flow to me through him so that I could rest and meditate and do nothing but those things every day, all day, for a long time. Now what I need is different. Now I need to sustain paying rent in this beautiful house and having this space available to seekers. So be open to the change. I'd like to open it up to questions now. I have some pre-submitted questions here. I'm going to go into those. While I'm doing that, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. Okay, so I have 3 pre-submitted questions that I'm going to dive into here. How y'all doing? Are you still with me? I'm not sure if my YouTube visual is accurate, because I see a lot of people here. Well, a good number of people here, but nobody's liked yet. It says 0 likes, and I keep asking for likes. Can I have a like? The reason I ask for likes is because YouTube, oh, thanks, somebody liked. Yay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if that was not showing what was happening or, okay, now I know. Thanks. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do questions. So Helena asked, I think she has such a great question. She said, the big question I have is, how do I reframe what I was taught about money? My father was very possessive about his finances, to the point where I would get yelled at if I even touched his wallet. Now when I get money, I want to either spend it right away or give it away to someone else. What are some steps that I can take to shift from my learned beliefs to a more enlightened mindset? Helena, you asked such a fantastic question, and I've been sitting with this all week. And I really personally resonate with it. It used to be for me that when someone would give me money, I would either want to give it away to someone else or just spend it, right? It was like one or the other. And again, it goes back to what I talked about before, which is we can feel the discordant energies within money. And so it's like we want to just get rid of it. But you, in your specific case, you mentioned that your dad was possessive of money. So you went in the opposite direction. Your dad was like, ooh, let me just clutch and hold on to this money. And you saw that behavior and you thought, nope, not for me. I'm going to do something different. So you went to you're then going to the opposite extreme of just, you don't want to hold it. You want to just, right, throw it out, which can be really beautiful. So I would encourage you to keep continuing the generosity. You mentioned wanting to give it to people. That's so beautiful. I want to stop here and invite you, Helena, to consider and to celebrate the fact that you are so generous. Could we do that for a moment? Maybe you could place your hand on your heart, take a breath, and feel that warmth and gratitude for yourself that you're able to give so freely. How many people in the world are not able to do that? Or if they do give, maybe they give it to strange places. I'm gonna bring up something slightly political here in this moment and say that the largest nonprofit organization in the world right now, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the mainstream media likes to tout them as being so giving. They give so much of their money to very, I'm going to use the word evil, evil corporations, fast food companies, chemical companies, pharmaceutical companies, companies that are not making our world a better place. So the point is, are they really that giving? I would say no. So Helena, I've seen you give to local artists. You are always promoting fellow healers. You're always promoting and giving and sharing with people who are making this world a better place. So bravo to you. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're asking how to transition into a more enlightened mindset about money and not always be giving it away. And I would assume that would mean, how do I save money or not? Yeah. How do I hold on to my money? That's a great question. What I like to do, I'll just speak from personal experience here, is I always have a number of personal savings accounts going. So I don't just have like a savings account that's for just savings, but I have multiple accounts. So I have some envelopes full of cash. I have multiple different ones. On each envelope, I write what I want to do with that specific stream of money. So there's an envelope right now that says spiritual teachings and healings. So this is money that I'm just putting $20 every now and then, $50 every now and then into this envelope for when I need to travel to meet with a new teacher or do like a ceremony or pay for some kind of healing session. Yeah. And then I have another envelope that I stick cash in for car maintenance. And then I have another one for a new car that I know I'm going to need down the road. Then I have 2 different savings accounts, like electronic money, through my bank. And each one has different needs. One is for health, and then one is for like taxes / unplanned events. So I have these like flows, and sometimes I have as much as like 10 envelopes of cash going at one time because I have many things I'm looking forward to in the future. So what I'm saying is, a way to hold on to money is to be having projects or plans in your head of ways that spirit is guiding you to funnel this money into. It's not just, oh, this will be fun. No, and we've talked about this, Helena. It is, how is spirit wanting to use me? I have an account for my health because obviously I need to keep this body going if I'm going to be here on planet Earth sharing. So that's important. That's a necessity. So what are the things that you are looking forward to? What are the things that you need to invest in? That way that you won't constantly have this like feeling of like wanting to get rid of the money. It's going into proper channels. So I hope that's helpful for you, Helena. The second question here is from Cassie. Hi, Cassie. So you say, she says, how do you motivate yourself to get money when you believe in a more balanced world without greed? In other words, how do you motivate yourself to get it when you think that money is a big problem in our society? Oh, girl, your question is right in my heart. I feel ya. Oh, so much. So as a formerly chronically ill person, me, I understand your question most intimately. The way that I started to motivate myself to get money, to receive money, to find ways to get money into my life is honestly, the only way that I did it is to dedicate myself more and more to discovering my gifts, my spiritual gifts, and then meeting with other people who wanted to receive those gifts and realizing that I did have something to share and that they had money to give me back for that. So we often have this illusion that we're not allowed to use money in spiritual practices and spiritual teachings if it's truly spiritual. I was just having a conversation about this with one of my Reiki students just 1 week ago. She was talking about, wondering about that balance of, feeling that if it's spiritual, how can you mix money with it? And wondering about that. So that comes up so often. And as I said in the beginning of the broadcast, we live in a world right now that does function on money, for better or worse. That's just how it is. So let's not live in a fantasy, but rather in the reality of we need it. But what is beautiful is when we start to realize that the very things we're good at, the very things we most like to do, the very things that get us high on life are the things that people are most willing to pay us for. Let me repeat that, Cassie. So the things that you are most good at, the things that you excel at in the world are going to be the same things that people around you are going to want to happily give you money for. And I know it might seem a bit unbelievable right now, a bit far-fetched, but it's true. And I can say this from personal experience and also coaching people on money. I work with people individually, one-on-one in sessions, and I help them discover their own path to receiving money through really believing in their own gifts. So Cassie, discover what you like best in the world. What do you enjoy? What practices, what tools, what methods, what creations what gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you here? What do you love doing? And I know these things are cliched. Motivational speakers say them all the time, but it needs to be said, especially for light workers and healers and sensitives. Because because of the intense trauma that we have all endured in childhood and then possibly young adulthood and maybe even now from the world who regularly invalidates our gifts, regularly calls us crazy, regularly says we're nuts, regularly says we don't have shit to share. That goes deep. That goes deep within us. And that hurts. And it sucks. So we have this level of conditioning and trauma and pain that we need to deal with. And so I encourage you, Cassie, and anyone else who's resonating with this question to work on statements of self-love, statements of self-empowerment. It's not wrong or egotistical to tell yourself that you're awesome. I almost dropped the F-bomb there. I'm so passionate about this. So give yourself those daily affirmations. Know that you can heal yourself. You can heal yourself of anything. And you can move forward in the world strong, empowered, sharing what you do so well. I hope that helps. Alrighty. We have one more. Okay. And I see Derek is on the call here. Good. Okay, so Derek, I'm going to ask your question for you. So Derek, you say, how do I use the law of attraction to get out of debt? That's an awesome question, Derek. So first and foremost, I don't often teach on the law of attraction. I don't consider myself a law of attraction teacher, as some others do. So I won't claim to know all the ins and outs of that, but I have a pretty good sense of what it is. And I understand how the law of attraction works with the other cosmic laws. There's not just the law of attraction. There's many other energetic principles that work together harmoniously. But what I found, I'll summarize my understanding of the law of attraction. The law of attraction is when we surrender to the knowledge that what is outside of us is also contained within us. That the outside of us is a part of what's within us. When we affirm and learn and acknowledge that we're all one being, that everything, this pen, this tree out my window, and you, Derek, and this notebook, all one. So if that's the case, then there's cause and effects. When I do something inside of myself, it has a ripple effect out. If there's things happening out there, it comes in, right? So we're all connected. So we use that understanding when we think about money and how we want to work with money in this lifetime. The part of your question, Derek, that I found most intriguing was about the debt. How do I get out of debt? So debt in this society, this is maybe going to be the most controversial thing I'll say all day. Debt in our society is a construct. Let me repeat that. Debt in our society is a construct. It's a set of agreements that we have made about what's real. It looks pretty real. And there are some very real repercussions for not paying one's debt or for getting out of debt. However, things are shifting on this planet right now. What's happening is that people are looking into these so-called banks, these so-called financial institutions. They're digging in. What is this? What is this Fed that creates our money? What are these taxes that we pay? So we're looking into these systems in our governance, in our economic system that use, manage, control money. And many of us are saying, no. So I'll speak from personal experience. I have a debt of student loans. When I was a whole different person, I mean, really, I feel like I've lived about 30 lifetimes in this lifetime so far. No joke. When I was another person named Heather, I was just trying to be an academic professor and was married and took out some loans. And at the time, my husband at the time said, oh yeah, we'll pay all this back. He had a very good job. And I thought I was on my way to having a great professor job full of lovely checks and such. Then I had my spiritual awakening, my total physical breakdown, my near-death experience, and and then from there. And now I have morphed into this other being, many other phases of Anya. And now I'm in this phase of Anya. This phase of Anya has done a lot of research into banks and how money is actually created. So without getting into all the details, because honestly, it gets me a little tongue-tied when I try to explain it. I'm not an economist, but I do want to just plug that book again, Sacred Economics. It goes deep into this subject, but I'll try to break it down for you. New money, new cash in our system is only created through loans. So when these big institutions, the Fed, they create money, they print new money, they make new money on the books. It's only through loaning it out to others. That could be a bank, that could be an individual. Well, the bank gets the money and then the bank loans the money to an individual. But the point is, this money doesn't actually have any reality. It's just numbers on a screen. So there's some people in obscenely powerful positions who have the ability, and I'm really oversimplifying it, but this is true, to just go click, 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 and suddenly money appears. That sounds great, right? But it's really not, because that money then goes through the system and it eventually ends up in, let's say, I was taking out a student loan. So suddenly I have this deposit in my bank of all this money from the loan. When I was in school, they're like, here's $30,000. Poof, the money appears in my account. That money had no originating reality. It was just doot, 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 click, click, click. Then I have the money, but here's the catch. Then I have to pay it back with interest, okay? And I also have no way to then also dispute that if my life takes a totally different turn. So there's two problems there, okay? So if I was a professor and I had a regular, bigger income, I probably would pay this debt off, no problem. I'd be like, whatever, it's just a little bit every month, who cares? But I don't. Secondly, and this is the more important point, is that because of this way that money is created, it puts us all into competition with each other. Because so I've received this money from my student loan. Where am I going to get the interest to pay the bank back? Let's give it an analogy here. Let's say there's 10 people in the whole world, just for fun, 10 people, and there's a bank. And the bank lends each of them some money. And they say, you have to pay us back, the bank, with interest. But that's all the money that exists in the world. Is the only money that exists in the world is what's in the pockets of those 10 people. And that's all the money that exists in the world at that moment. Where is that interest going to come from? The interest comes from competing with each other, and at least one of those people is going to go bankrupt. It's built into the system because I have to steal and extract money from my neighbor in order to pay the bank the interest. Is that fair? Does that sound like the world that we want to live in? No. So I have done deep research into this issue about how money is created, how it is built on scarcity and competition, greed, very dense energies. Because of this, I don't have a desire to pay my student loans back now. And in fact, I have been in the process of legally protesting against this debt. And eventually I'll be freed from it one way or the other. There is groups of lightworker lawyers, and I can refer you to some if you'd like, for a very small fee, and just to help them live. They can help you to formally and legally fight against credit cards and banks. You can get yourself out of debt by showing them the legality. Well, basically sending them letters and saying, the loan that you gave me was not ethical. Because it's not. If you actually look at the laws, it's fraud. Because it's not being presented to us the reality of how money is being given to us. It's a false contract. So my point, Derek, is that debt, certain kinds of debt are not accurate and do not need to be paid back ethically. Some debt does need to be, I would say, need to be paid back. Let's say that your mother loans you $100, and it would be beautiful, when you are able to pay your mother back $100. That's your mother. I do make distinctions between personal loans, friends, family, neighbors who loan us money when we're in a crisis, it's energetically, karmically good to repay those loans. Now, when we're getting out into these big systems that are based on falsehoods, I would actually say that that's up to you. If you do feel like ethically you want to pay those back, then do it. But I would also say that a majority of us are heavily in debt right now to these systems, and many of us are rebelling. Many of us are fighting back. We are all so much in debt. And why? We are becoming slaves to this system. And so I would say, if it feels good in your heart to fight back and to look for alternative ways of releasing yourself from that debt, then do that. So if it is a debt that you feel in your heart, Derek, that you need to pay back for your own karmic well-being, I would say to use the law of attraction to pray. I would say pray, Derek. That's the word that keeps coming in just for you, which is pray. Every night when you put your head on the pillow, pray that you be shown the way, the method to flow money into your life. And if you do that practice that I showed at the beginning of the transmission of when you do receive money, take a moment to feel gratitude. Hold it to your heart. And if it is electronic money that someone sends you, you can close your eyes in that moment, say a prayer of gratitude. I hope that helps, Derek. Does anyone else have any questions they would like me to respond to? No? Let me check in with Spirit and see if there's anything else that needs to be shared at this time. Take a moment to breathe with me here. Yes, if you are in debt and if you are struggling with money right now, Spirit wants you to know that it's not your fault. Mostly everything we've been taught as children is a limited and outdated viewpoint. We have so much healing to do. And money for centuries and centuries has been wrapped up in guilt, confusion, pain, suffering. So of course, we haven't gotten the true story of money. And what I'd like to invite us all as a group to do as we're gathered here is to envision and hold energetic space for the version of Earth that moves and transcends beyond the version of money that we know now. It's a world based on sharing resources, bartering. It's a world based on everyone having their basic needs met effortlessly and freeing up their remaining energies to be creative in the world, to live their God-given passions and pursuits. It's a world where a tiny select few do not rule over the majority, where money is equally distributed. It is a world where we all take care of each other as brothers and sisters. Nobody starves. Nobody. And the system of bills that we have today with presidents on them, that ceases to exist. And in its place is something much more beautiful. And I invite you to imagine something more beautiful now. And maybe you don't have a specific visual in your mind, but it's a feeling in your heart. Tuning into that future, that wavelength that does exist in the future. As you breathe in, breathe that into your heart. Breathe that stream of life into your heart. And as you exhale, exhale down into Mother Gaia, sending that intention, that vision, that hope down into her beautiful soil. Allow that vision to take root. Beautiful. And so have compassion with yourself as you work with money. Know that it's a learning process. It's a growth process. We're always going to be learning with this. It's definitely a challenge. I've been wanting to speak on this topic for years, and part of why it's taken so long is because it is such a challenge. And I didn't know what, I had so many things I wanted to say. I wasn't even sure where to begin. But this is my first time sharing on this topic here with you. So I'm so grateful that you've been here. And I want to invite you to my next Soul Satsang, which is March 13th on a Saturday, March 13th. And it's going to be at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. The topic is going to be how to do soul communication, which is basically telepathy, how to do telepathy. So I hope that you will come and join us for that. And also, if what I shared with you today on money, if you need more support in this area, then I do recommend you reach out to me and we can work together one-on-one, and we can work together to solve any lingering conundrums you might have when in your relationship with money. So we can work on the phone or in person or Zoom or different ways. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm sending you all love and wishing you a peaceful, harmonious relationship with energy and money. Namaste and love you.